I want to congratulate a guy that I consider a mentor to me, Stephen A. Smith of ESPN. You know Stephen A. Smith. You know, so many ways I could take this conversation. I'll just say this. Stephen A. Smith is getting a new contract with ESPN. It's reportedly around $8 million a year. Stephen A. Smith is the staple of ESPN. You know, they've spread him so thin over the last few years because they've lost personalities like a Skip Bayless, obviously due to pay cuts and other things going on. And other guys just, you know, they're just not getting over. They're not as popular as Stephen A. Smith. You know, within the African-American community, they've lost Jamel Hill, and I believe Michael Smith's contract is up. And even in the mainstream, like, it ain't just in the black community. Stephen A. Smith is controlling that whole company pretty much overall. Like, let's put in perspective. Number one, he has one of the biggest morning shows in First Take. That's the number one job, right? Let's not forget, they still do fly Stephen A. around the country to be a reporter for NBA games some nights. Stephen A. Smith also, a lot of mornings, he has to go on the Get Up. That's the morning show that's right before First Take. Also, Stephen A. is now on ESPN Sports Center on Wednesday nights before the Wednesday night game. Also, Stephen A's social media presence has increased dramatically. Let's get it clear. He's always been a meme, but like over the last couple years, I've noticed like everything this man does, is memeable content. Also, he still does have a radio show, and he shoots like 3 hours of radio show every day. Like, this dude is spread thin. So, give you a little bit of context here. I did intern at ESPN, and I did work with First Take for a couple of weeks. So I was able to shadow literally the producer of ESPN. Shout out to Antoine. He's such a great guy. He let me shadow. I told him I had interest in being a reporter. I was a young black dude coming up. My job was something else. I was a production assistant for SportsCenter. But because I had interest in being a reporter, they knew that. They let me shadow the best. They let me shadow Stephen A. Smith. Let me just break something down to you. I was able to do breakfast with Stephen A. one time. First off, being at the table with such a guy like that, it was a privilege and an honor that I'll never forget. We talked and he told me about some of the things that he gets about the business and some of the things that he doesn't get. He talked to me about Skip Bayless. At the time, Skip was still there. It just was truly an honor to do breakfast with Stephen A. one morning at ESPN. Also, it doesn't hurt that he pays for that as well. With that being said, I was able to watch his work ethic and his process. People don't get this. The dude's only in studio like 2-3, or it used to be, he'd only be in studio 2-3 times a week. Now, this was in Connecticut. He's now in New York, so he's, First Take has moved to New York. So he's there much more with Max and Molly. But at the time, Stephen A. would literally be in studio 2 times, 3 times a week. Then he'd go on the road to California, depending on, the Cleveland Cavaliers, I believe, was the most popular team. So a lot of times he had to go from Connecticut to Cleveland. Like, I watched this dude work. And you know what I mean? His schedule has only gotten busier, but just talking to the dude, he's got so much game, and he really cared about the young black men, specifically that worked for ESPN. He'd always ask us, when he catch us in like a group in the hallway, he'd always ask us, are they treating y'all right? You know what I mean? And I probably shouldn't even be disclosing that, but he's so popular at ESPN, it don't even matter. So to see him get money, young journalists out there, because I am technically still a young journalist. Stephen A. is hovering around the age of 50-something. Be clear. This is great for our business that this guy's getting that bread. Number one, you cannot stop reporting the facts, right? You cannot stop being a reporter and having integrity. Let's not look at Stephen A. as a guy that just is loud on TV. This dude was a reporter for over 20-something years before he got to the position he was at, where he was able to get on debate television. So we can't stop reporting. We also got to understand you got to be polarizing on that camera. You know what I mean? You just got to be polarizing. You got to be a brand. And Stephen A. has accomplished a lot of that. He has a lot of help nowadays. It wasn't always like that for Stephen A. Smith. A lot of people don't know Stephen A. had a show back in the day called Quite Frankly on ESPN that failed. It didn't work out. And he also had a show back on Fox with Skip Bayless. It didn't work out either. Stephen A. did give a comment that I do want to read to you guys. I thought it was so dope that Stephen A. did comment on his new deal. Now, he didn't confirm the amount, but he says this from time to time, and I want to leave it with you guys. 2 things here. Stephen A. said, for the Jay-Z's, LeBron, Shaqs, and others, I don't consider them the American dream. He said, I consider me the American dream. You got 1 in a billion shot to be them, but you can be me. You can go to school, you can work hard, and you can make it and be Stephen A. Smith. Again, reportedly getting an $8 million a year. That goes up over the contract that he was just making, at least $4 or $5 million a year. So he's making even more money. And I'm pretty sure he's going to be up for renegotiating that contract after a couple years, because his brand is only increasing and his workload is increasing. And I want to say this as well while I got you guys. During my tenure at ESPN, I was the last week. Yeah, it was the last day actually of my internship at ESPN. And I even got offered a position at ESPN. And I'm going to just be real and honest with you. I was walking into the bathroom, so random, and there's one guy in the bathroom. And his name is Skip Bayless. And, I was telling him, thank you so much for allowing me to come inside of your First Take studios. It's not that many people in there. You know what I mean? There's only like 6 or 7 people in the room when they're shooting First Take at the time, Skip has moved on to Undisputed with Fox. And in the bathroom, I'll never forget this moment. It arguably changed my life. Skip Bayless looked me in my eye because I didn't want to overdo it. He was in the bathroom doing his makeup right before First Take was about to go on. And Stephen A. wasn't there that day. And Skip looked me in my eye and said, "You don't belong here." He's like, "Look, you get one life at this thing." And I'm summarizing here. And he told me straight up and down. He was like, "I've worked here for so long at ESPN and I've seen so many guys get stuck." And he's like, you're something different. You're different. You don't want to get stuck here. And again, this is a year before Skip left for Fox. And looking back in retrospect, maybe he knew he was going to leave when his contract was up. But just looking back, that man told me straight to my face, go follow your dreams. This will always be here for you. If you want to come back, you can get this job. But you're a reporter. Go follow your dreams. You're special. And I'll never forget that. So I just wanted to leave that with you guys. Go follow your dreams. You don't know what your limits are. Look at me. I'm 4 or 5 years later. This is my green screen. I bought this. This camera that I'm shooting this video on right now, it's a very expensive camera, $1,000 camera. I bought this. These microphones everywhere. They're literally like, I can't show it to you now. There are 4 or 5 microphones. I bought this. Computers that I'm shooting. I have 3 computers in front of me right now. Lighting kit. All this stuff. Another camera over here. I bought this. And it came from hard work, determination, and believing in myself. So if I can leave anything with you, I ain't making $8 million a year like Stephen A. Smith. I'm making ends meet to pay my bills right now. But I see the bigger picture, and I refuse to give up on me. And before I go, nothing wrong with corporate America or whatever I got to do to make it happen, I want to take a chance on me, the ultimate chance on me. And so far, that has made all the difference. I thank you guys so much for the time, love, support. I don't take it for granted. Salute. I'm out. You into sports, we got you. NFL news, I got you. NBA news, NBA highlights, NBA full coverage, feature stories, all that great stuff, I got you. We even got a little bit of Madden and 2K mixed in. Subscribe to this platform, and I got you. More quality content on the way. Subscribe.